Look, if you don't want to make that change within yourself, it's not going to get better. This might not apply to everybody, but if you feel like you're rock bottom, okay, and you're hoping for a better day, but you literally are doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, that's a definition of insanity. You are provided with a choice every day. You are provided with multiple choices throughout the entire day. Take that choice, make that change. You've identified a problem. You're saying you're rock bottom. Got it. You're there now. There's only one way, and it's up. So change your mindset. Use that choice and go a freaking different direction. Love y'all. Faceman VTT out.
Day 3 of retirement. As an infantryman, I was asked if I could clean the sink. So let's look at this. Definitely some kind of grime on there. And I open up the cabinet. What do I use? Nothing comes to mind. Like my experience is my skill set. Nothing. Wait a minute. Everyone knows this is how you clean everything. Infantry, retired.
You can just take it.
Would you like a military discount?
Do you offer one?
Honestly, cap of the day.
Thank you.
CC's Pizza is the county fair of restaurants. You go in there, you look around, you feel a little bit better about yourself, then you realize that you're in there too. Tell me I'm wrong. Well, let's be honest. You know, not everybody's made for this life. It's scary. You know, you gotta jump out of a plane while it's moving. That's not natural. It's high, it's fucking wet outside sometimes. It's snowy, it's hot, it's dry, it's shitty. Who the fuck would want to be airborne? Best job I ever had.
This is the Veteran Trash Talk Hour, hosted by Nick, Dave, and Buddy. Real warriors making fun of other real warriors. Try to not get triggered.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 115 of the Trash Talk Hour. Special guest today is Ben Owen, owner of Black Rifle Company. This has nothing to do with coffee, but we'll get into that later. And returning guest, Scott Mann, author of Pineapple Express. And as usual, I'm joined by Nick and Buddy. Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday. What's up, people?
What's up, everybody? How's everybody doing? Good? Yeah.
Ben's been driving.
Ben's been driving.
I am fucking exhausted.
Yeah, we'll get into that. A lot of people know who Ben is on social media, so I can't wait to get into that and go into all his adventures and everything he's got going on. So it's pretty sweet to follow.
Give me a fun show. Give me a good show. So as usual, Faceman's going to kick it off with a conspiracy. So I actually was going to do the blimp that we just shot down yesterday in South Carolina, or shot it down today.
Yeah.
So that got nixed. So I had to pick a new conspiracy, and I found this one about 30 minutes ago. And about 45 minutes ago, and it's actually pretty cool. Like,
why
I
did
looked
that
up some stuff.
Nick?
What's that?
Are we talking about?
Because we shot it down. We shot it down.
Didn't we shoot
one
that?
of them down? There's also one in Canada coming
Right,
down.
tracking that one. But
now.
I'm talking about the one in the U.S. We shot it down. Like,
Didn't we
this
shoot down the
morning.
one over Ukraine first?
I don't know about that one.
So why would Biden shoot that one down first?
Who knows?
I don't know.
Oh.
Who knows?
I mean, maybe we can talk about it, but it definitely wasn't aliens. So I'm
But
not-
we were going to
Well,
talk
I'll
about it.
tell you
anyways.
what.
Okay.
As somebody from the South, I have never seen people more excited for balloon hunting season. People were trying to figure out how to make their own missiles in their fucking yards. There was like, you can't buy a fucking metal trash can down here because they're all fucking 100-mile-an-hour taped together with fucking 5 gallons of gas and a fucking little remote control to fucking try to fly. Like, we were
We're ready.
We were fucking like, you know, like, you think we got big enough trailer to mount that son of a bitch on the wall or what? Maybe just a piece of it. I'm just saying.
I want pictures.
We were on it.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll have to talk about it eventually. But so I looked up this guy. All right. Have you guys heard of the Andrew Dawson giant case? So this guy is on TikTok. Okay, his name's Andrew
Hold on, are we
Dawson.
talking about giants again? Didn't we
Yeah,
already?
this is not the Kandahar
Well,
giant.
yeah, we're
This
not
is a
worried
new
about the giant
buddy.
that smoked all of your group guys, okay?
Yeah.
Is it,
All right,
is it,
the one-
is it
yeah.
that giant? Is it
Yeah.
that giant's
You
cousin?
guys couldn't even handle one giant in your special
Yeah.
forces?
Yeah.
Come on.
Hey, well, yeah, we
Wait.
did. We handled that thing.
Yeah.
Remember?
You did. A special
Apparently
forces
we
guy killed
him.
him. Yeah, he
Yeah.
killed a regular
Most
infantry
cool.
platoon, right?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
have to use a bigger caliber gun for those, though.
And to this day, Buddy just says he can't talk about it. So I don't know, but we'll get into that later, maybe. But anyway, Andrew Dawson. So this guy on TikTok, okay, he's from Canada. He Chris put the picture up. You guys can't see it, but it should be up there. He's driving around in Canada, and on this mountain, as you can see in that picture, he sees what looks like to be a giant. Okay, so guy just starts posting on TikTok all about this giant. All right, his TikTok starts blowing up. Okay, millions of followers, millions of comments, all kinds of crazy shit. Then he starts posting about like CIA people like tracking him. Okay. As soon as he posted the video, the next day there were helicopters like surrounding this mountain. There's pictures of that as well. A military camp was set up on the top of this mountain. Okay. A lot of weird shit. And this is all like on TikTok. Of course, you know, it just could be a big scam. Turns out he leaves for a while. Okay. Shows up 30 days later after not posting anything. And he does this really weird video where he's talking about like, I'm scared. All right. But it was all fake. All right. It's not true. And he seems really nervous when he's doing this video. Then like a couple days later, he posts another video. They're going to kill me. They're coming after me. Long story short, he's dead now. That's the end of the story.
They warned his ass.
So if you go onto his actual, if you just hashtag his name on TikTok or search him, there's literally videos of like black cars that are like in front of his house, you know, like scoping him out. You know, he tried to go to the mountain at night and it was apparently closed. And there was supposed to be some CIA agents that told him he can't go up the mountain. Just a bunch of weird shit. And then after he didn't post that one video where he finally comes on and says it was all fake, he looks nervous as hell, scared as hell. And then posts a couple more times, hey, I'm scared. I didn't kill myself. And now he's dead. Like he's legitimately dead. There's like an obituary. Like you can Google his name and he's dead.
Well, Epstein's dead too.
Yeah, Epstein's dead too, right?
How did he die?
I don't know. Unknown.
This is
It's kind of it's super weird. Was there a giant on that? Was there a giant on
That's a
that
really
mountain?
important part of the story, Dave. Like
Yeah,
how did the guy,
look, I had 20 minutes for this shit, buddy.
Did a
All
rock
right.
fucking fall on him? Did a giant come down and like
Yeah.
buck him
No,
to death?
yeah.
Like what are we talking about?
Yeah. So anyway, my
he
take
got
on
killed,
this
he
whole
got
thing-
killed by getting hammered in the ass.
my take on this whole thing, I don't really believe in the whole giant thing. I mean, if you look at like history, the Nephilim and giants were brought up in the Bible and everything, you know, and there are some like larger bodies that they found in, you know, Afghanistan and shit, the big skeletons, you know, so who knows? I do believe that maybe giants existed in the past. Not really sure about this giant on this mountain in Canada. The videos are pretty weird of like military helicopters being there after he posts his shit. So I don't really know. I don't know where I stand with this whole thing. The fact that he's dead is super weird. I did watch his video where he's like visibly nervous, like and stressed out, saying it was all fake. Like somebody told him, hey, you need to say that it was fake. And now he's dead. So I don't know. I don't know where I'm at. I don't believe really in the giant thing, but something fishy going on. Maybe, okay. He did this and it was a scam. And then like maybe he just got stressed out over social media with like how many people were sending him messages and stuff, and maybe he like killed himself. I don't know. I don't have a take on this. I'm in the air.
Oh yeah, real.
It's the first time.
Real independent of you,
buddy. That's Nick. That's the first time where I don't know. I can't say 50-50. I think it's super weird. Something crazy went down, but I can't. I can't put my hands on it. I don't know what went down. So, yeah, I don't know. Ben.
So Ben,
you give us an opinion.
I think I'm letting a recent experience Scott and I had with a mutual acquaintance taint my view on this, but I think dude had something in his background that was about to come falling down on him. And I came up with something elaborate to hide the fact that he's going to off himself.
Boom.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. Yeah.
So it was, more like stress and stuff, and then something was going to come out.
Yep, that's what I think. I don't believe the Giant story at all.
Okay, I like it.
Now, can we go back? What did the guy do before this?
I don't know if that was like his only TikTok content. I don't know if he did like.
So he was just a
He worked
TikTok
for,
influencer.
Influencer, yeah. But I don't know if like his account actually started with that.
He was
Gotcha.
account manager for FTX. I made that up.
Is the show still up? Yeah, we're
Yeah,
good.
we're still good at. Well,
All right, good take, Ben.
Our viewers dropped in half.
Yeah,
So,
Ben, I'll take that take. I think I'll side with you on that.
Oh,
Scott,
I like that.
Scott, what's your take?
Yeah, I mean, two things. One is I don't know what constitutes being a giant. Like Andre was a giant, right?
Yep.
I mean, so if you saw Andre, I mean, you saw a giant. So, I mean, I'm not sure what the criteria is to be a giant.
Good question.
So, I'm trying to get my head around that one. But regardless, I tend to agree with what Ben said. It sounds to me like a narrative was created to bring more attention to someone, checking out of this world, which seems really sad to me. But it seems like that would be where I would put my bet.
Okay. All right. I like it. Buddy. Come on, let's go.
I've been snacking so that my brain's working right.
Yep.
Because as we all know, I ain't the brightest bulb in this whole.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Here's that imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
First of all, I would have to say that I agree with Scott. Giant is a relative term. Like if you're what are we calling them now? Little person. If you're a little person, and I walk in the room, you'll be like, "Damn, he's a giant," and I'm only like 5'9.5".
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you're a person from like ancient Afghanistan and a 6 foot, like 6.5 foot dude walks in, you're gonna be like, holy moly! Their average height is what, 5'2", 5'4". You know what I mean? They're tiny little fellas.
I think like the picture show, because it's on top of a mountain. He's on the highway, and a large figure, like a smaller person standing on top of the mountain, you probably would, it's a very large figure.
Unless it was not
or whatever it is.
Maybe he was surfing on a UFO and he was actually closer, but it just looked that way. Anyway, either way, I also think that the whole, like, why would the CIA get involved above all the people? You know what I mean?
Right.
That part doesn't make any sense. And also, if I was the CIA, let's put our CIA cap on, like I'm a secret
like
squirrel.
The CIA or like an operative or an analyst.
Either way,
or
let's
CIA.
Let's say I'm in charge of the CIA.
You're Petraeus.
And I wanted to make sure that the story didn't get out. I would just let the guy keep talking. He sounds batshit crazy. You know what I mean? Why would I lend any credence to his story by silencing him when I could just let him talk? Like, nobody's going to believe him because it sounds crazy. Like the movie scenes where like the guy's like telling his girlfriend, like, hey, look, I'm a CIA operative. She's like, oh, you're not. You're crazy. And he's like, oh, okay, that worked. You know what I mean? And then he goes and does this little spy thing. Yeah, I wouldn't. I just wouldn't care about it. But yeah, giants. You never know. That could be a real thing, but it seems like it would be hard to hide.
You would think, right? Yeah.
Well, there's also a theory that, and I'm surprised we haven't covered this in the conspiracy, but there's all these, plateaus or whatever that look like the stump of a tree, and they're like, there were giants millions of years ago that cut down these giant ass trees that went all the way like 1,000 feet.
Well, they talk about giants in the Bible.
What about Stonehenge, right? Like, how did those rocks get moved? Giants carried them, obviously.
Well, I mean, there's a guy in Florida. There was a guy in Florida that moved a bunch of rocks that were super duper heavy.
Coral something.
Coral, yeah, coral.
Yes.
Yeah, and then there's
coral, whatever.
go Blecky, however the fuck you say it.
Yeah, he was
in
some
Turkey.
Polish guy or something in Florida, and he moved all those rocks by himself, and all he used was like people thought he used like seismic waves, and people thought he used weird levers, but he did it all himself, and he moved tons and tons and tons of stone, and would never do it where anybody could see him. So, yeah. Now, I don't believe that they're giants. I don't. I think that Matumbo is tall, but he's not a giant. And that's
we got Manute Bull was 7'7" or 7'8", right?
Giant.
Like that.
Yeah.
Shaq was 7'4".
I mean, The Undertaker. Hello, everybody.
It's 7'4". Like, there's some big things out there, you know.
Yeah, but I don't know that I would refer to them as giants.
Right. So we're talking about perspective. Like, what is a giant? Like you said, like, what is a giant to you? So I'm gonna go with I'm gonna take a little bit lighter hearted thing on this, because I do think what Ben said is probably actually what happened.
I like that take a lot.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the lighter side of it and say that this is 100% real. Okay, and that movies have ran my life. Okay, I base every conversation I have off a movie. If I don't understand what you're saying, I just throw in a movie quote to sound funny, and that way that takes away from that I don't have any idea what we're talking about. But when the movie Ghostbusters, right? If somebody comes in and says, "Are you a god?" Right? You say yes. Okay, so when the CIA comes into your room and says stop, okay, you stop. Like, where do you think this is gonna go? Like these people have what? Buddy?
Do you also collaborate and listen when they come in? If they tell you to stop?
So let's say Vanilla Ice said stop. What's the next thing out of your mouth?
Oh, collaborate and listen.
Because we know this, right? These are things that are obvious. This is common sense, right? The fifth principle of controlling, right? That's what it is, all right? But I'm going to go with that this is 100% real, and the CIA warned him, said, hey, look, you're popular enough on TikTok now, chill, right? And he was like, they won't bury me. Yeah, they will. So, I mean, Scott's being real quiet. You notice I got shady there because Scott's been doing some work in the mountains before, with some of those guys, so he's like, nah, not me.
The CIA has gotten rid of popular presidents. Like, it's gotten rid of a lot of people that ran whole countries.
Yes.
I don't think they're going to come after TikTok people. Come on.
Yeah, a little history lesson. Everybody likes those, like I did a report once saying that the Vietnam War was a giant feint operation, right, for Malaysia and Indonesia, right? Because if you're talking about the domino theory, right, Vietnam's like a middle domino. It's not even, who cares if you knock the middle domino over, right? You want to secure Japan, so you got to secure all the land masses around Japan, right?
The only thing I would throw out at that, man, I would there's a time when I would buy that shit, but like now after seeing the way we left Afghanistan, I'm fairly convinced we're just not that fucking smart.
Exactly.
I agree with that 1,000%. And I think CT in America is dead now too.
Yeah.
Sadly, I hate to say that.
What I would say is the CIA wanted to set up their puppet governments while we were on black hit lists in Malaysia and Indonesia during the 60s and 70s, and nobody was paying any fucking attention, right? Because the news was all in Vietnam, right? Now, but I Sky, that's like I said, this is I would tend to agree with you that a lot of people give the government way too much credit, like you think they're fucking smart enough to know that. Now when you do study history, there are think tanker guys that I'm sure Scott's met a few of them. I have yet to meet any of them at that higher level, but that there are think tank guys that have been around every administration, no matter what, for 40 years. And those are the guys that are sitting in a corner of a room that when somebody has a question, they turn around and he goes, "I'll tell you later."
It's not. I don't think it's the fact that our government's not that smart. I think it's the fact that if you get 3 people in a room, even think tankers, you get 3 people in a room that are high enough up in the government, they can't agree on fucking whether water hydrates you. Like they can't agree on shit.
Well, you look at the OSS agent for
an entire conspiracy, and
the
then keep it
OSS
quiet.
agent that advised Kennedy on Vietnam. You know, Kennedy asked, "How many troops would I need in Vietnam right now?" And the OSS agent said 575,000. And he goes, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah, right now." He goes, "You would need that in the South right now." And he's like, "But what do you mean in the South?" He's like, "It's certain she's already there." He's like, and then he's like, he literally said, "You're fucking nuts," because he's like, "There's no way I'm gonna be able to get Congress to authorize anything like near that without an act of war." You know, but then the government was smart enough to find a way to get that amount of troops in there. It just took a couple of years, but
you raise a good point there. In absence of political will, we're not getting anything done in the U.S. And I think that's probably what happened in Afghanistan. Which brings us back to the giant. If there's no political will to kill a guy that's outing a giant, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyhow.
Well, I was going to do an extensive book of Earl today. All right. Which
Oh, you
I know
said you were going to do a short one.
I said I was.
You promised us a short one.
Right. Was English, buddy. All right. And I
I-
know it really upsets Buddy and Dave that I'm not going to talk for an hour. But but anyways, my book of Earl, all right, it stems from the actual book of Earl, which I think it was like chapter 6, verse 40. Don't really remember. But it was embrace judgment. Okay, embrace judgment, don't fear it. And the point of that is if somebody's judging you, all right, it's still ultimately up to you whether or not you give a shit. Right? If somebody judges you. All right. But if Dave says that I'm being an asshole, maybe I am. All right. And then maybe I should take a step back and look at it, embrace that judgment. All right. And this kind of had me thinking for a week after I wrote that. And I've started to notice a lot more just starting to stick out of like the victim mentality. All right. And what got me inspired about this was Ben's post about raising good men, and we put that as one of the cover things for the event. And then I had another wise person tell me that when it comes to like equal opportunity, the victim mentality gives them power.
Oh yeah.
You know, and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking that's interesting, and because when you look at an actual victim of something. All right, if you're an actual victim of something horrendous, right, your power has been taken from you. All right. So it is extremely, in the Book of Earl's opinion, it is extremely unfair to play the victim card. Because of that, there is actual victims out there because you're afraid of judgment and you're afraid of the power that you thought you had that you lost. Right now, again, this isn't something towards actual victims, but the phrase victim mentality, right, means that if you have that mentality and you're not a victim, it's the fact that you're just afraid of judgment. You're afraid of somebody telling you you're wrong, somebody telling you need to fix something in your life, somebody telling you that this is detrimental to not just you, but your family. This is detrimental to everything else around you. And yet you're going to find some way to get that power back. All right. You're going to try to get that control back of your life by saying it wasn't your fault. Right. When in terms it was your fault. And our signature phrase for Veteran Trash Talk is get the demons out. All right. The demons are your responsibility. All right. They're yours. If you don't play the victim card that the demon got in there by accident. Right now, something bad might have happened. PTSD. You know, we're veterans, PTSD, right? There's things you saw, stupid shit, right? Bad shit, nasty stuff. Okay. Those are real things. Those are traumatic. The way you handle those, that PTSD, that's you.
Right? That change starts within.
Yeah, you own that. So I want you to look at that victim mentality of why you're getting held up in life at anything, whether it's starting a business, whether it's going back to school, whether it's an alcohol problem, whether it's a tobacco problem, whatever, right? You're going to find some freaking way to make sure that it's not your fault that it's happening. Yep. All right. You're going to do the best that you can. And I was like, imagine if you spent that effort.
Put that energy into yourself.
Fixing the fucking problem, which is your problem. Right. And so, like I said, it goes back to my book of Royal last Sunday where I said, embrace judgment. Because does somebody have the right to judge you? Again, that's up to you, whether or not you're going to give them that right to judge you. Because if I judge you and you don't listen to me and you don't get better, right? It don't matter. Like, it doesn't matter. Oh, you're just a judgmental prick. Okay, I just saw something.
But you also have a choice, like you said, on how you can be affected by that.
Right.
Absolutely. You literally.
But then
everything
again,
you do in life.
But then again, you take away that choice,
yeah,
and you yell at the other person for judging you.
Yeah, which is dumb. Like, who gives a rat's ass? Like, oh, he judged me. Who cares? Like, so you literally have that internal choice to say, I don't care. You're placing value on somebody else's opinion.
Right. And
like,
so that's
concerning in itself. We could talk about hours.
That all depends on what your priority is.
Well, if it's a solid opinion, then cool. But if you're just worried about regular judging individuals who just want to bring, like, who gives a shit? Like,
yeah, well, again, that all deals with your priority. Is your priority to be popular?
But then again, but if you actually are, like, let's just say, like, call you an alcoholic, buddy, and say like, let's say I call you one, right? And we don't say we're not friends or we're not great friends or whatever. We're just like, hey, you got a drinking problem, bro. Something like that. Yeah. And right away, you just get defensive on me. You're looking to get power back.
Yeah.
Right. Because I just took it away from you, saying that you don't have control of that.
Right. Except for I have the choice to say, oh, well, you don't know me. So have a good day. Later.
Correct.
You get no. I had I had a very similar story. One of the guys that used to be on the team with me is in a different battalion now. And he came in one day. He was like, yeah, man, there's this dude that was talking shit about you. I've been retired for a year. Been out of the game for at least 2 years, so doing retirement. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, who was it? Cool. And he's like, yeah, I don't remember what his name was. And I was like, so you're telling me that some guy that you don't even care enough to remember his name thinks that I suck, and I haven't been in fifth group, like, working for the last 2 years, yet he still thinks about me.
Sounds like you're living rent free in his head.
Rent free.
Yeah.
Like, the guy that you're talking about, I don't even know, nor do I give a fuck about, and that's not what I do anymore. So, whatever. What I care about is the opinion of the people that I actually like, that
matter to you.
I work with, and they're the ones that I still talk to, still care about, still work with, or still hang out with, do stuff with, like, take part in their families. You know what I mean? Like, you have to. It's all exactly what you're saying is right. It's all being a victim may entitle you to a little bit of compassion from people as you're trying 100%. To rebuild or fix what you're doing, but that's it. It doesn't entitle you to the rest of your life. And being a victim is one thing. Maintaining your victim status is a completely different thing. Like, it's harder to maintain that status than it is to get yourself up and fucking move on. Like,
it falls into like who you surround yourself with as well. If you're a fucking victim and you're surrounding yourself with a bunch of
there
people
are
in the same
that
boat.
enable that. There are people that enable that behavior and make it profitable almost to be a victim.
And before I turn it over to Scott, did you guys see that video of that girl in Florida getting the shit kicked out of her on the bus by the teenage male? Don't watch it. It's super disturbing. Okay. But like, it reminded me, like, as I was thinking about it this week, where a 9-year-old girl got beat up by a teenage boy on a bus viciously.
Nobody did anything.
No, everybody jumped in, and it's obviously a bullying thing, and watch it for yourself if you want, but it's obviously a racial thing too. Okay. Now, right away, this is when I started getting upset when I was reading, because you go read the comments, right?
Don't ever do that.
Yeah, you go read the comments.
That's the first thing I do.
Right. No, but you see.
I don't have the emotional capacity.
Right. So you start seeing.
Earl is the one getting upset about comments when he's the biggest troll in the entire
I am
world.
a Facebook terrorist, all right. But anyway, when you start seeing people finding certain ways to justify what this man was doing to this 9-year-old girl, right? And it's like you're just reading some of the pulse of some areas of America where it's like they're literally trying to make the assaultant a victim of some form. Is why he was doing that. And it's like that is exactly the wrong answer. Exactly. Correct. And I got it because we have Monica's on the show watching, and I made a joke earlier as a Facebook terrorist on one of the posts about the woman veteran and it's like it's almost impossible to like try to help people or try to do the right thing, help yourself when all you have to find some reason to be sad for yourself. Yeah. And it's like no, like that sucks that happened to you, but fuck it. Like, and that's why we built, and I'm not talking about really bad things. I'm talking about like, somebody just insulting you. Like what who cares?
Imagine waking up in the morning and that being your thing is to get on TikTok or Facebook
just
or whatever.
To get upset.
Just to like,
there's a huge segment of society that they live
much of a rise you can get out of somebody from because there's no real, like nobody's gonna show up at your house and
punching you around. Yeah. Well, that's the thing is, so like raising good men is like Ben was saying. Like, so I'll turn it over to Skyler 1 second. The things that I pray for, right? I pray to God that would never happen to one of my daughters, and not so that they wouldn't get beat up, but it's because I would kill everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody. Right. Yeah. And it's like, 100%. And if you don't have men like that would stand up for the weaker people, right? That's where you lose the society in some aspects, not all of society. You lose the society if you don't have strong men. And here's something for you women. Guess what most strong men already think about women? All right. They already think that they're the strongest, most valuable thing on the freaking planet. All right.
100%.
The most valuable and strongest thing. Right. Like, and that'll bother some people. That's sexist. No, it's not. Literally, like we think that you're the greatest freaking thing ever.
Absolutely. Right? Don't go Andrew Tate on me right now, Nick.
Yeah, ever. Ever. Okay. Yeah. So it's like you lose that. If you want to take that feeling away from the men who actually will fight, all right, that's gonna be a bad thing. But anyways,
somebody once said that the worst thing you can do, and that analogy of the wolves and the sheepdogs and the sheep, it's kind of old and cliche, but the worst thing that you can do using that analogy is to make the sheepdogs despise the sheep, because then they just let the wolves do whatever they want because they can't win anyway. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're not going to get anything from helping the sheep.
Right.
Yeah. They're just going to get butt fucked, and then they become fucking just as bad as the wolf. It's not worse.
Right. Mm-hmm. All right. Okay. So that was the Book of Earl. All right. Just again, it's embrace judgment, and if you have the ability to help, you should help. Right. Mm-hmm. Like it's that simple, and you'll find every reason not to help because you're selfish, just like I am, just like Dave is, just like Ben's been. We'll find any way not to freaking do it. Okay. But yeah, exactly. So, hey, Scott is with us. He was on the show a few weeks ago, promoting his last man out. All right. And if you watch the show, it was a phenomenal show. We had a lot of good feedback on it, and they've already done a show in DC and they've done a show in Chicago. I think Ben went there for that one. Where's your next stop?
We're locking it down now, Nick, but it looks like it'll be Dallas/Arlington is going to be the next.
I might have to come to that one. So for sure.
Phoenix is coming up still, right? Yeah.
Phoenix is coming up in June. And then we're going to try to get to that. We're really trying to get to Bragg in May.
Walk Center Universe.
All right, April.
Liberty, guys.
Fob Liberty.
Fort Liberty.
So, we could, Fort Liberty. I'm going to call it Bragg. I'm going to call it Bragg even harder now.
Referring to it as Bragg is problematic speech. So you need to calm that down.
But Scott, tell us how the play's going, and then for
Yeah.
those that are watching and haven't seen it, which I'm sure most of them have because we've been taking the shit out of it. But tell us how it's going and like what you've learned from it so far, and what's the next steps.
Yeah, thanks, man. I'll make this quick because I want to, just like you guys, I can't wait to hear Ben, because that's just so much comes from that guy when he talks, man. But Ben and I have kind of been on this journey together in a lot of different ways. And I just was thinking about the embrace judgment thing, and it kind of pivots right into Last Out, which is, I don't know if you guys ever read any Stephen Pressfield, author of Gates of Fire and War of Art. He's a pretty cool dude. And one of the things that he talks about, you know, and I think it pertains to veterans as we move into that next phase of our life, coming out of service, is, you know, embracing judgment, but within the context of what you know to be true. Right. For me, like, I don't mind at all someone giving me judgment or even criticism, but I have to have the agency in my life to evaluate it within the context of my own journey and know the journey I'm on. Now that's just me. And so, for example, when my oldest son told me he was going to join the Army a few years ago, 6-7 years ago, and he wanted to go infantry and then SF, you know, it hit me really hard, man. It hit me differently than I thought it would, because of the fact that we had already in Afghanistan started moving away from our partners and the villagers that we had worked with so closely. And many of the elders that I personally recruited had been killed. And I'm thinking, okay, my son is going to go fight a war that I didn't finish. And there's something inherently wrong with that to me, like as a father.
Oh, that's to look at it that way. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's just how it hit me, you know? And so that actually was the impetus for writing the play Last Out, because it kept coming up to me and I was already doing storytelling and speaking at the time, but it kept coming up to me as like all the movies, all the books are all about the first in, the door kickers, which is great. Cool. But we never hear about the last out, right? We never hear about the guys that go day after day, month after month, year after year. They just keep going back, the last out, you know, and I wanted to tell that story. We never hear the story about the NCOs, the team sergeants that like carry those rucksacks, those platoon sergeants, those first sergeants. And I just felt kind of led to do that. And rather than pursue kind of the, you know, victimhood, nobody understands veterans, whatever, I just started writing and moving the pen. And for me, that became therapy. And then ultimately it became a story about 3 team sergeants that I had that didn't make it home. And they became a composite character named Master Sergeant Danny Patton. And Danny is mortally wounded in the very first scene. And he is trying to ascend to the warrior resting place of Valhalla, but he's holding on to something and he can't let go. So his best buddy, Kenny, who was killed on 9/11 in the Pentagon, who's based on my best friend, Cliff, who was killed in the Pentagon, he comes down and with other, what I call operators, and they're shapeshifters, basically, from Valhalla, who specialize in difficult extractions of special operators. And they come down and they become all the people in Danny's life who made his heart pump the most blood, right? They become his wife, Lynn. They become his child, Caden. They become his arch nemesis, Colonel Smith, and his arch nemesis, Saeed Wali. And basically they take Danny through the whole journey from the time he goes through selection in the early 90s until he is mortally wounded on September 11, 2013. Right. And in doing that, the audience, which is comprised of both civilians, combat wounded, veterans, gold stars, they go for the whole ride together. And they literally watch Danny get tousled back and forth between his fire base and his living room as it moves faster and faster and faster, and it come off the rails. And that becomes until he figures out what he's holding on to and he lets go. And I think what makes this thing has been 6 years in development. I can't take credit for any of it. I believe that at least in my God led me through this path, and a lot of buddies that aren't around anymore that come to my aid for every one of these shows. But anyway, what's really cool is the cast. It's not theater people from New York. It's not actors from LA. The entire cast are combat veterans and military family members who have trained their ass off to tell this story from the stage as good as any actor. And that's what they do. And that's what we do. I play also to complete my midlife crisis. I learned how to act at age 50 and I play Danny Patton. And so, yeah, man, we've been touring the country. The thing I'll end on is we live in some extraordinary times, as you guys have alluded to. I have to tell you, the talkbacks that we do after every show are electric. What we are hearing from the men and women who served and their families and the Gold Star families, they are absolutely electric because of how we left Afghanistan, how we ended this 20-year war. They do not feel seen. They do not feel heard. I'm not talking about in a victimhood kind of way. I'm talking about in a moral injury kind of way, where a small percentage of people were asked to do a thing for 20 fucking years, and then we turned the page on them. And so this play is like an emotional breaching tool. It opens up those hard conversations for the community to sit and talk about this shit. So that's it. I mean, I am really fired up. We had put this play on a shelf before the collapse in Afghanistan, and we were not going to do it again. And it was when Gary Sinise saw the film version of it on Amazon Prime that he asked us to take it on the road. And so I felt led after the way we left Afghanistan to do that. So that's what we're doing. We'll be posting our tour schedule on lastoutplay.com. I really hope you guys will come and be my guest.
I'm in for the Phoenix show. I'm in.
Yeah, we're in for the Phoenix show for sure.
Right.
I'll try to get to the Dallas one once you hammer that down, because it's the same play for me either way.
Awesome.
Hour each way.
And Ben and Jess came. It just meant the world to have them there, man. Like, you know, he's my brother, and it was so great to see him out there in the audience. But like, I'm not going to take up any more time with it. I do think it is warrior storytelling in a way that we need it, and we're not going to stop. We're going to keep elbowing our way into every room until people understand what load our folks carried and are still carrying, and they're not thinking about this thing like a fucking Fortnite game.
Right? Yeah. Speaking of Fortnite, I got a crown today. No big deal. I
don't even know what that means.
Dude, the play, if you haven't seen it, it is fucking powerful.
I mean, it sounds like it just the way Scott describes it.
The entire audience was in tears. Without giving away too much, in between the first and second act, I'm getting text messages from my 17-year-old son, my second oldest back home, that he's decided to enlist as an 11 X-ray with an option 40. And then I go back into that second act, and just the subject matter of that second act, coupled with my 17-year-old texting me all that shit, dude, I lost it by the end of the play. I was a snot slinging, blubbering mess, but the entire audience was too. I mean, it's just incredibly powerful. And Scott will definitely be there in Phoenix, probably Dallas too. If Austin or San Antonio works out, you know we're there too, man. It's so powerful. I do think it plays into everything we've talked about at this point on this call, even slaying giants.
Yeah.
I mean, getting storytelling out there, normalizing, men having feelings and dealing with really shitty shit. I think it plays into literally everything we've talked about so far.
All right. So let's introduce our guest of honor. Welcome to the dumpster fire, as you see it is.
Welcome, Ben.
For those of you watching for the first time or listening for the first time on our podcast platforms, we start off the show with a conspiracy because we want to get back to that barracks talk where Joe's talk about something that makes no sense, and it's just a good time. And we enjoy it. We get into little arguments. Then we give a little speech about here and there, and then we bring on a guest, right? And we want to promote any veteran cause, whether we agree with it or not. We have an apparel company. You can buy our shirts. The ones
we bring other apparel companies on the show.
Right? We bring other apparel companies on the show. We don't care, right? It's like we want everybody to succeed. All right.
Win-win? What? Win-win? What a crazy mindset.
What a crazy thing. Yeah. But I actually, Ben Owen, the way I picked up on it was he sent me his bio, and I started to pick up on something. Right, I started to pick up that this guy was never in the 82nd Airborne. And the reason I knew that was because anybody who's been in the 82nd Airborne is going to tell you they were in the 82nd Airborne. Yeah. So I was like, I was just about
to try to turn my screen off, but then I realized that Chris would get pissed.
Yeah, don't do that, buddy.
I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. But unfortunately, he was never in the 82nd. But we still brought him on the show.
That is true.
But he did chew some dirt, and he did his time, and he's going to get into his story here. But I started paying more attention to his page after we had Scott on the show.
Yep, same here.
And I started looking at what Ben was doing. And, obviously he'll have imposter syndrome. We'll pick up on that later where, he doesn't think he's doing a lot of great things, but he absolutely 100% is. And whether or not you get your inspiration from a good thing or a bad thing or what, doesn't matter where it comes from. But if you have the ability to do good, all right, Ben Owen is somebody to follow on Facebook. Okay. Because he's going to talk about it, but he's going to show you, and he's going to talk about that you can go make a difference. All right. You can go make a difference tomorrow. All right. So Ben, welcome to the Trash Talk Hour. Talk about why you ripped off Black Rifle Coffee Company. And then also talk about what Flanders Fields is doing. And especially with your homeless project that you got going on is freaking phenomenal. So welcome to the dumpster fire.
Thank you, sir. And it's good that you mentioned dumpster fires because every project you just mentioned is indeed a dumpster fire. Scott and I met in probably one of the biggest dumpster fires I've ever been involved in, which was the collapse and evacuation of Afghanistan. I got pulled into that through my day job. I own a company, as you mentioned, called Black Rifle. I picked that name up years ago. We sold gun parts. We were one of the largest distributors for slide fire stocks. Those got federally banned, which just got overturned. But in the process, we built a huge data set that we've since, I won't bore you with details, we've since figured out how to kind of overlay it on the entirety of content consumption on the internet. And we do marketing essentially for firearms industry. Now our data can do some really cool shit too, some sketchy shit, scary shit, Big Brother kind of shit. And so back in July 2021, a Marine intelligence officer hit me up and asked if we could help get some people out of Afghanistan. And actually, he posed the question a little different. He called me and was like, "Hey, man, you want to do something fucking crazy?" My answer is always yes to that. And then he told me what we're going to do. And I'm sitting
Which car are we taking, right?
Yeah. Right? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And then he told me what we're doing. I'm like, I've never been to fucking Afghanistan. I didn't even deploy. Like, what the fuck are we going to do? And he's like, well, check this shit out. So we ended up we're using the same technology we use to target firearms consumers, on their mobile devices. We're using the plot safe ground routes between provinces in Afghanistan. And it was kind of during that process I came across Pineapple Express during the NEO at HKIA, the non-combatant evacuation operation, where Scott was, of course, doing fucking amazing work. And we just were working with a lot of the same people, and our paths crossed and realized we've got just an ungodly amount of things in common in our backgrounds. So, and we've also got, excuse me, a very similar calling and mission in life to lift people up and help them get through whatever the fuck they're dealing with. A few months before the collapse of Afghanistan started, my wife and I for a long time have been helping homeless and addicted vets get back on their feet, get into treatment, because I used to be homeless and heroin addicted, and my wife was too. So we decided to formalize that into a nonprofit. I think it was like March or April of 2021, called Flanders Fields. Named after the famous poem written during World War I about the field in Belgium where they buried a bunch of dudes in poppies. And
Poppy fields.
Yeah, poppies are significant because that's what opium comes from, which is what heroin comes from, which, a lot of that grown in Afghanistan. So there's a lot of parallels there. But as the Flanders mission kind of grew, we got approved by the IRS, coincidentally, as a 501c3 the day Kabul collapsed. So August 15th, 2021. Me being as naive as I was at the time, and Scott probably was too, he'll chime in on this. I thought the evac's going to be over in a matter of weeks. How bad could this get? I don't think I slept much at all during August because we were all, on phones nonstop trying to move people to the airport, get them into safe houses and all that shit. So again, this is through my day job.
All that shit. That's great.
Yeah. It was, yeah. We could sit here and talk like no shit for a week straight, just about a day in my life back then. But at some point during that process, it dawned on me like, this is not going to be over. It may not even be over in my lifetime. So we decided to bring Flanders into it. And instead of trying to house homeless vets in America, we're also now going to house allies downrange. And so we started doing that. And I think by the time we decided to back off the safe house game, we had something like 60 or 70 safe houses all over Afghanistan, all being managed remotely from 8,500 miles away. We've got just a badass team of volunteers that were helping with all this. And it wasn't just Flanders. I mean, those safe houses were just Flanders, but there's tons of other orgs doing the same stuff. But we all realized that our government was essentially waiting on us to bankrupt ourselves, trying to do what we're doing. And that's pretty much what happened. So, we've still got a couple safe houses in Afghanistan. We got pulled into the Ukraine situation too. We've actually sent one of our vets who's in recovery from opiate addiction to Ukraine to do humanitarian demining, I think 3 times. He's about to go back for a 4th. But we've done evacs out of Ecuador with Craig Sawyer out of Phoenix, Sawman, the Vets for Child Rescue guy. We've done a whole bunch of crazy shit. We did some stuff in Mexico. But anyway, we're trying to bring the Flanders mission completely and totally back. Dude, I'm serious. I could sit here and talk for days about just one crazy thing we did.
We're all ears, man. We're all ears.
But you tell me which one you want to dive into. There's a bunch. Like we got asked to go down to Mexico during the Ukrainian collapse. They had 22,000 Ukrainians that ended up in Tijuana because they figured out they can just walk across our fucking border.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Right. So we go down there to assist with that. We got asked to come down because they needed a security assessment done on the camp. And then we were told that there were some Russians that were trafficking children. And so we went down there under that pretense, and in the back of our minds the whole time, we're thinking, me and Duke, we're going to get our Afghans to Tijuana and then get them to America. We ended up getting there and realized like the thing's running like a well-oiled machine. We didn't even need to be there. The 2 Russians were actually really fucking good people, and I still talk to both of them today. Like everything was great. We never could get our Afghans there. I don't know if you guys watch Brett Baer or Jen Griffin, but I was on Fox News like 8 times in a week because one of my Afghans did get himself to Mexico and crossed illegally and got federally charged for doing it, which is absurd. We're letting, 22,000 Ukrainians in. All these Central and South American migrants that were with this Afghan commando got released, and it took almost a literal act of Congress to get the Afghan who fought us.
Right, not just an Afghan commando.
Not just a commando, but an officer. Like this dude, and it wasn't just regular commandos. This guy was KKA. So I mean, like super legit. Everybody fucking knew him. We've got an Afghan ANSOC general in DC. He's like, I've known this guy for a few years now. We had, I think, 3rd group guys that knew him. Germans knew him, and it took, almost a literal act of Congress to get them to drop the charges against this dude. It was absurd. But yeah, so that, I guess, plays into a lot of what we deal with, which is how vets cope with moral injury. And that is absolutely one of those deals that just furthers the continuing betrayal of everything that everybody who ever served stands for. And I think a lot of vets, deal with that by drinking. They try to drown the pain, or substance abuse. And so we've seen a huge escalation in addicted vets. And once somebody becomes addicted, they're not a vet anymore. They're a junkie. Once you become homeless, you're not really looked at as a vet anymore by society. You're just a homeless piece of shit. And so we stand to kind of bridge that gap and get these guys, the help they need, or women. And in that process of doing the outreach for, struggling vets, we've kind of expanded that into a lot of work with trafficked women, inner city kids. Like the mission's expanded drastically. So yeah, we can dive into any specific piece of that and talk for days. Yeah. You guys just tell me.
Yeah, well, I definitely. All right. Yeah. So obviously you're doing tons of stuff, amazing stuff. But for our viewers and everything, you mentioned, and obviously I don't know if you want to dive into it, but it'd be great. It definitely could help. You mentioned that you were addicted. All right. That you did have a drug problem. Now, was that prior to the military, or was that right when you came back?
No, that was actually long after the military. What got me discharged was being in without an ACL, and I broke my leg multiple times.
Right.
Years later, I ended up getting a methicillin-resistant staph infection and became horrendously addicted to prescribed opiates. That eventually progressed. It didn't take long into an $800 a day heroin habit. Yeah. And
can you hit on that a little bit? Just being. I mean, that's pretty much rock bottom. Probably it's
nope,
there, but
I went way further down than that.
Yeah, as much of it as you want to elaborate on, these types of stories are, I love these types of stories.
They're powerful.
They're powerful.
Yeah. So
and then talk about, where the switch happened in your head, where you're like, all right, this is it. Now I got to do something, which is obviously brought to you where you're at right now. It was a ladder that you climbed. So
yeah, I had at the time back in 2012 when things started taking a turn for the worse. I'd struggled with alcoholism like since I was a teenager. Been to treatment multiple times. I actually spent like 12 months locked up in my teens. But I went back to the alcohol, and then the staph infection happened for the third time, I think, and they were talking about potentially amputating my leg below the knee. And they had me on real high doses of narcotic painkillers, which I'd never had a problem with. And just I called turkey quit them one day because it was making me an asshole to my wife and kids. Well, I did not realize what was about to happen, but I was horribly physically addicted to them. I went into withdrawals. I mean, like 12 hours later, I was sick as fuck. One of the vets that I actually, the very first vet that I ever got off the street into treatment and gave a job to is an amputee. And he had a VA prescribed bottle of 30 milligrams, and he knew exactly what was wrong with me when I started getting sick. He threw me a couple of those. I was better within minutes. And it didn't like, I really think from that point in time to now I'm putting a needle with $800 worth of dope in it up my arm every day. It was maybe 90 days. It went really, really fast. And so from that point, you know, I got arrested for the first time in 2014. Or the first time I got arrested for drugs. I got arrested for fighting like right after out of the army, but that went away. And they charged me like I was Pablo Escobar because I was on my way home from my warehouse. I owned a business and we had a 100-yard range behind it. So I'd been shooting. I had a lot of guns. I had a couple of suppressors. I had a sub gun legally, everything I had legally, but also had 6 grams of dope on me. So they charged me with 14 felonies.
God.
Yeah. Now, for any logical person, that's rock bottom. You're a business owner. You know, you got a wife and 5 kids that depend on you, and you just got charged with shit that could put you away for like 40 years. That's rock bottom. It was not, and it wasn't even close to it. I'll skip all the minutia in the middle. There's actually me and Scott sitting around a fire pit where I get into detail on a lot of it. But they put me on.
That's on you. That's on YouTube too, right? They can go see that.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. Yeah,
Yep.
And I was just gonna throw out real quick, if you guys get a chance to check that out, like anybody, like it, to just go along with what he's saying here to supplement. It's
I'll post it later. We'll post it later for anybody that's watching. Yeah,
it's a solid piece. I mean, I opened up on that about a lot of stuff I don't think I've ever even said out loud to anybody other than my wife, my ex-wife. So you know, I destroyed my marriage. They gave me drug court, where it's just where, you know, if you complete it, you get diversion, the charges are deleted. I fucked that right off. You know, ended up back in jail again. Long story short, I was able to get rid of all the felonies. Everything got pled down to misdemeanor. Did a little bit of time on that, got out and relapsed. You know, I mentioned we had Black Rifle. We were selling slide fire stocks. Well, when that dude in Vegas shot everybody with one of them, the credit card, the banking industry decided they were going to hold all of our money. So pretty much overnight, and I'd rebuilt my life at this point. I'd remarried, had one more kid, had fixed a relationship with my ex-wife. You know, the kids are with us more than her. But when that happened, man, you know, the switch flipped again. You know, went right back to alcohol. My wife, my current wife, final wife, we're not getting another one. You know, I met her in Narcotics Anonymous when I was on drug court. I don't recommend that, by the way. I got really lucky. Don't ever go meet somebody in Narcotics Anonymous, but it worked out good for me. We both relapsed, and I think from the day we relapsed until we lost literally everything, including our house and our vehicles and our kids, was, I mean, inside of a year probably. And the next thing I know, we're living in a $700 truck with stolen plates on the dope track in South Memphis with a 2-year-old. You know, there were multiple points in there where if I was a rational person, it would have been rock bottom after that arrest in 2014. You know, getting stabbed, getting shot at, getting kidnapped with my wife. You know, but it would never click. And I didn't want to live that way. I just couldn't figure out how the fuck to stop. You know, I knew where Narcotics Anonymous was. I knew where AA was. I knew who to ask for help, but it wouldn't stick. Nothing would fucking work. And then one day, in May of 2019, I woke up in an empty lot in South Memphis covered in blood. A buddy of mine had just been murdered. And I had no idea how I got there or where I was, but I knew I was done. I knew I was fucking done. And I was. I picked up, I moved to Georgia. We rebuilt our life, and we were able to get back most everything we lost. You know, I've got a great relationship with my ex-wife. I was actually hanging out with her and her new husband last night. 3 of the 5 kids we have live with me and Jess here in Georgia. 2 of them still live in Memphis. We've got 2 more kids now, so that's 8 kids total. But yeah, it went down far and fast. And I like to think maybe I was worse than most people, but here's the takeaway. If there's anybody listening to this that is struggling with alcoholism, pill use, I mean, anything that you were using to fill that void inside you, you may not be as bad as I was yet, but I swear to God, if you live long enough, you'll get there if you don't change something.
That's
And that's really
right
the impetus for Flanders is, I said I would have stopped 1,000 times if somebody had been there to show me how, to like walk me through it. I knew where the solution was, but I needed somebody to kind of push me to that. And that's what
that or punch you to it, like somebody to throw you into it. Somebody like, hey, you're going.
Yeah, and that's what we have to do with a lot, especially vets, because we're fucking stubborn. And most addicts are shockingly or not shockingly stubborn too. So and then it ended up being quite the same with trafficked women. You see a lot of the same issues with them that you see with vets. A lot of complex trauma, PTS, moral injury, and then the addiction issues are just as common. So yeah, that's the 30,000 foot view of
wow. Yeah, Monica in the chat says, "Brother, my hat is off to you. So glad you're here to tell your story."
Yeah, Clifton mental health,
Thanks,
Clifton mental health
Yeah.
warrior, who also was in the Pentagon when it got hit, said thanks for sharing your story.
That's wild, man.
So yeah, like,
Go ahead.
and again, as now that we have a little bit like a microcosm of your background of what's happened, and I'm gonna be like a little bit of the devil's advocate to play into what I was talking about earlier, where there's always these haters everywhere, and they're always gonna be. You can't never gonna get rid of them, right? They're the ones that bring you down. Like you had the privilege, you had the chance. Other people didn't. You decided to do this. You decided to do that.
Right.
Well, yeah. Right, because once, and like Scott said, once I own it, and once I, when it comes into my perspective, once I own it, it really doesn't matter anymore, right? Because I did own it, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I need to go forward. So I know there's some people watching right now based off of just the thing that we put on the background about raising your men to be good fathers, right? So, and I know I saw it in some of the chats where people were like, "Man, I really need to watch this because I'm failing." Right. And it's like, and one of my friends wrote that, and that was weird because I hadn't talked to my friend in a while, and that picture reached him. Right. And he was like, "I'm watching this because, I think I'm not doing a good enough job." Well, I don't know what anybody else says. There's a lot of times where I fail. And here's a shameless plug. In our movie coming out on Amazon in 22, The Unforgotten Soldier, I got both my daughters tattooed on my arm. And I didn't seek therapy until after I yelled at one of them for no reason. For no reason. I absolutely lost it. Right. And I was like, does that make me a failure as a father? When you stop being a father is when you die.
That's right.
But then even after you die, you still were that kid's father. So talk about that a little bit, about that sign.
Man,
and then also talk about how, like, yeah, there's people that have been worse than you, but there's people that I think they're a failure that haven't done as bad a shit as you. Like, it's all perspective. What does that sign mean? It
is a lot of perspective. And, it's funny that you bring up the haters and the naysayers in reference to that sign. So I made that sign at the request of the community in Uvalde, Texas. It might sound odd, but Uvalde reached out to us on the Black Rifle side, believe it or not, to respond after the shooting at Robb Elementary. So I worked 17 of those funerals. We brought Flanders guys down to kind of counsel some of the family members that lost children. My son, the one that just enlisted, went down there with us to work with the kids. He insisted he would not take no for an answer. And the big takeaway in that community was Salvador Ramos. They're going to be mad I even said his name because they don't want him to have a name anymore. He's just the shooter. But the shooter, he did that because he was not raised. He was raised by video games and TikTok. His mother was one of us, an addict, and unmanaged addiction. And so her son ended up being raised by her dad, who was not able to connect with this kid. The kid had no human connections when he did it. Nobody taught him how to be a good man. There was nobody there for him to show him what it looks like to be a man. And so, they'd seen me make these, dumb little signs, inspirational signs that kind of go viral, and they asked me to make that one. And so I did. And it went fucking nuts on LinkedIn. I think it got shared something like 250,000 times. But one of the comments that we would see nonstop on this thing was people bashing me because everybody sees Black Rifle and they think I'm the coffee company, which some people associate with far right and some people associate them with grifters. I don't even know how to figure it, but
It does. They've
or
done
they
it
would
right.
assume I'm a gun company. And they would be like, how dare you make this sign? How can somebody, that believes in guns raise good? And I'm like, first of all, like, let's back this the fuck up, because you're trying to virtue signal against me about what just happened in Uvalde, Texas. I didn't see you in Uvalde, Texas, keeping media away from the funeral. I didn't. I was there. Were you? Second, like, what more accurate descriptor can we make of a good man than a protector, than a provider? So the whole trying to paint the gun as the problem in this situation, that was one of the most common pieces of hate we got. And a lot of it, I'm not going to bullshit, maybe want to delete the post because it pissed me off that bad. That's why I try to stay out of comments. I don't have the capacity or the time to get into it with people on those because, as you've already heard or as you've seen, like I'm going fucking 19 hours a day. 3 businesses, 2 nonprofits, 8 kids, and we're trying to save the world, by the way, over in Afghanistan and Ukraine. I don't have time to argue with people, but everybody wants to come with these stupid ass opinions and virtue signal all of the stuff, but they're not willing to lift a finger to actually do anything to make
They're not
something
going to put their skin in the game.
Yeah, nobody wants to put skin in the game, and I think that's one of the biggest things I've learned from Scott and Travis Peterson, over the course of this evac is like, we can all make a big ass difference somewhere. You don't even have to have the experience to be able to do it. All you have to do is show up. So, to your buddy that said he feels like he's failing right now, did he show up today? Because if he showed up, he's not failed yet. I will tell you, and Scott will probably echo this, we fail more than anybody I've ever met.
It's the constant effort. Do we continuously put effort into it? Correct.
Yeah, it's a constant effort. And as long as you keep showing up, and even if, look, let's say we fail not because I couldn't save somebody. We have people, die from overdoses or die in Afghanistan often. Let's say it's not that. Let's say I actually fucked something up. I did something wrong. As long as I adapt and try to overcome and I show back up the next day, then I haven't failed. Another good example of that from my personal life, dude, I hate public speaking. I did not want to do this. I don't enjoy this kind of stuff. But I showed up.
Having fun?
And look, I'm having a great time doing it.
Everybody has fun after the show.
Everybody has fun at the Trash Talk Hour.
Yeah, I'm having a great time. I didn't want to do it, but I'm here and I'm glad I showed up. And that's the way this usually ends up going. And so people look at these problems. Something that our pastor said at church years ago that stuck with me. I was still in active addiction when I heard this: is find what breaks your heart. He just said, find what breaks your heart. And then I've discovered over time, after finding what broke my heart, if you pursue that and try to do something about it, you'll find your purpose every time. Through finding purpose, and I think that ties in very nicely with what Scott's trying to do with, Hero's Journey, Rooftop Leadership, and Last Out is helping the broken find their purpose again.
Right. And then because like we said earlier, is who determines if you're broken?
Yeah.
Right. It's you.
Perception. It's us.
It's you. Once you determine, I might tell you you've been broken for years, but until you decide to say that you're broken, that's when you're broken. All right. Like now you can correct me if I'm wrong or different opinion, but like that's when you can fix it, because now you've decided you were broken.
Yep. May 19th of 2019, I realized I was fucking broken. It took a week before I would do something about it, but that's when the wheels started turning for me to be able to fix it. And I went from, I am a victim of my disease, I'm a victim of circumstance, to, okay, what am I going to do to not be this anymore? Your statement about, victims and the way we perceive things and criticism, we have a saying, and my wife says it to the women we work with all the time: victims don't fucking recover. They don't. They do not get better. So as long as you maintain that victim mentality, and I don't care what it is you're going through, or if you're actually really a victim, because a lot of these women are, as long as you identify as a victim and not a victor, as gay as that sounds, you're not going to get any better. Your life's not going to turn around, and you're not going to see your circumstances change.
And Ben, one thing I would just add to that too, man, is like, look at like what you guys are doing on Trash Talk with mental health, and then what Ben and Jess are doing in their team to go in and literally go into the lion's den and pull people out. And then I think to some degree what we're doing with, helping warriors find their voice and tell their story. All of that. One thing also that we have in common on that is this, I think, this realization that nobody else is coming, right? Yeah. Like if we're waiting on institutional leaders to come and like save the day, that shit's not happening, and it's not going to happen. You know, they're part of, I think, us reclaiming our agency and even moving from the identity we had as warfighters into this new arena, right? A new arena of relevance and purpose is the recognition that nobody's coming. Like, so whether it is dealing with addiction, mental health, or, moral injury to moral recovery, whatever, we've all kind of been conditioned that institutional leaders take care of that shit. Like, it gets handled. But I think we're in a new place right now where the most important thing right out of the gate is to realize that nobody else is coming. And if you just move toward it and start iterating on it, it's going to be a far sight better than it already is. And you'll probably you'll probably mess some stuff up and make mistakes, but the reality is nobody's doing anything about it anyway.
That's right. So even if we fuck it up, we've at least done something.
Yeah, and so Brian's on the chat, and Brian, I want you to listen to maybe replay some of this stuff and listen to it. And he's being brave by posting this. He says, "Being a failure breaks my heart because it affects my children." And I replied as veteran trash talk. I said, "Failure is a beautiful thing to your children when they see you show back up."
Dude, there's nothing more powerful. I can't tell you how much it means to me for my kids who watched me end up homeless tell me today how proud they are of me. And they don't even know half of what we pulled off. But for them to see me come from a place of failure and stand up and show up again and keep going until I figure it out, dude, there's nothing more powerful. Like, kids learn from that. They watch our failures and they watch how we come back from them. So yeah, I agree with that completely. Failure is a beautiful thing when kids get to watch you come back from it.
Yeah.
It's just
And
about showing back up.
Not to sound like one of those woke folks that gets real upset about everything.
You mean understanding
but
everything?
I don't know. I feel like when we say the word failure, like, I don't know, failure to me, failure is only a word that you can.
It's because we attach value to it and make it like it's a bad thing.
Yeah, but it's only a word that you can use to describe if you quit and you're not reattacking
absolutely.
it. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
I'm not failing. Just because you're maneuvering in a different direction doesn't mean that you failed. It just means that you're reattacking from some other place because what you did wasn't as successful as you would have liked it to have been. You know what I mean?
1,000% true.
It just feels like, and
one word I might throw out there.
As you guys talk about, like, like when Brian's talking about his kids seeing him fail, if you walk into a room and you do everything 100% perfectly right, and you're, great, then everybody just takes it for granted that it was easy, no matter how hard you had to work before you walked into that room. They don't understand, and they don't have enough, I guess,
wherewithal.
They don't see all of the struggle unless you show
wherewithal.
them.
Is that 2 words?
You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't know.
I probably shouldn't use it. I can't spell it. So
I just think the word struggle that you just used is super important. I think actually struggle as a word, because, and here's why, is because one, it's a universal singular throughout storytelling, throughout history. Like, that's what struggle is always at the epicenter of what we do. Mm-hmm. And one of the funny things about it is in his book, The Little Book of Talent, Daniel Coyle says that by definition, when the brain runs up against something that's difficult or new, or, something goes wrong, it has to build new neural pathways to figure out a way through it. And that uncomfortableness, that feeling of failure is struggle. And the way Coyle says it is, it's a biological necessity. Like, we can't actually move beyond it without it. Mm-hmm. And I think what you guys are saying makes a lot of sense. I would even maybe suggest using struggle instead of failure.
Yeah, I like that. I guess
you gotta change the narrative. You gotta change the narrative.
Yeah.
Like,
well, it's not even the narrative. It's just
it is.
Buddy. I guess it's negative self-talk when you talk about
that's
failure.
your narrative.
Like, I'm not.
Again, it's what type of emotion do you attach to that?
That's
literally the answer to it. You're attaching a certain emotion.
You're right.
Yeah, you're attaching a certain emotion to that word, and that's literally putting you in that headspace. Just don't attach that emotion. I know it sounds crazy, like, well, it's not that easy to just do that. No, you can. You can just
you're right. It's not that easy to do it. It's a struggle to do it.
It's a struggle to do it.
The struggle, like Scott said. See, Ben's there. It's
I don't
struggle
know.
to do it.
I just figure just don't attach emotion to it. Just don't give it as much value. Give it as much value, and when you don't give it much value,
And that's where the triggered pansy shirt comes from. It's like, hey, you're gonna get upset. That's fine. That emotion is attached to it. Great. What are you gonna do about it? Right? Like, how are you gonna handle it?
Think about the best times that you had when you were in the military.
Yeah.
Very few of those times
Pathfinder school
are when things were going great.
I was wearing a suck, bro.
You know what I mean? Like
sure.
when you're in the moment and you're like, man, it's fucking cold, it's rainy, or it's hot, and I'm fucking dying. You know what I mean? Like in the moment, you're always like, this fucking.
But then you got to tell yourself in that moment, man, in a couple of weeks, we're going to be laughing.
But that's not even that.
One,
but when you get back together with your buddies, or you're on like a call like this, and then you go back and talk about stuff, it's those shitty times are the ones that you think back, and they're the most like, you're like, man, that was fucking awesome. Like it was fucking, we were fucking. Remember that time when fucking Jimmy got his fucking dick got frozen to that fucking 240? That was funny, right? Remember?
No.
Anyway, shared struggle is always the best way to.
Oh, you can't create a stronger bond than to share.
No.
There's no way.
And so, hey, Ben, I really appreciate it. And again, those of you watching for the first time or listening on our podcast platforms, I'm going to say it. We're the most authentic veteran podcast out there. All right. We all have our DD214s, and it's not Dave yet, but like he's getting there. June 1st. But we can all brag about our records.
I'm in Skillbridge, man. I'm in Skillbridge.
Yeah, we can all brag about our records. All right, Buddy will win, so we don't brag too much about that because he's got every school and every tab and every badge. You know, it's like I think he wasn't ever a drill sergeant, but I think they just gave him one anyways. But just
because he has everything else.
Just because he has everything else, they're like, fuck it, you're an honorary drill sergeant too. So I mean,
here's your instructor badge too. You know.
But something I just wanted to let the audience know and like, hey, veteran trash talk is different because yes, we will listen to you, but we are empathetic people, which empathy leads to action. So we will tell you that you need to shut the fuck up about it. All right. Or you need to, like, you got it, or not whatever the phrase is. Hey, you got it.
You need to build a bridge and get the fuck over it. At the end of the day, if you see the problem, you recognize what happened, deal with what happened, and then move the fuck on.
Right.
Accept it. Like tell somebody to get accept it.
The beauty of our community is as it expands, we start finding people like Scott, and then we find Scott, and then we find Ben, and then and then it's like we bring Ben on, and Ben just shared a tremendous story. So like I said, those of you listening, like I guarantee you saved someone's life today, Ben, 100%. So like somebody's gonna watch us and be moved by it. All right. And now again, when you move,
Ben's not a superhero. Like if he can do it, like other people can do it. Like
right. And if you think you're at rock bottom, it doesn't matter. It's perspective.
We have an internet connection and a fucking computer.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, hell, there's free Wi-Fi everywhere now. But it was just like, just go.
Not mine. I have to pay for it.
Yeah, pay for it. Well, yeah. That's right. But anyway, so like I said, those of you watch for the first time, we're not gonna sugarcoat things for you. All right, we're not gonna talk about blood and guts all the time. It's just real things. All right, and what you're going through is not what I'm going through. All right, but we're all here. That if you just put it on VTT official, right, somebody's gonna you're gonna get 40 comments and 30 of them will be stupid, but like 10 of them will be like, those are the people that fine. Okay, all right, start digging into what they're talking about. Okay. And when I say stupid comments, trust me, I make fucking 40 of them a day. All right. So yeah, like there's a lot of stupid comments on there. But you're going to find somebody that can help you. So, hey, Ben, really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. And
thank you all.
Yeah, please follow Flanders Fields and get involved if you can, and just, use his messages to whatever you want to use them for. Because when I look at Ben's signs, some of them make a lot of sense to me. Some of them are like, yeah, no shit, right? And then, it's like it's reaching somebody. So never be afraid to put yourself out there, because your circle might be like, yeah, no shit, but like somebody outside of it might get into your circle. Okay, somebody now might come in and be like, hey man, can I help?
Yep.
I need that help, and then it turns them into a help. Okay, but all right. Over to Buddy. He's been taking notes. Let's get AAR.
I've got so many notes. Like it's a whole page of notes, guys. Let's see. We started off with the giant, another fucking giant story. from old Andrew Dawson on TikTok. He's dead as fuck, but turns out we don't know how he died. Could have been a giant, could have been the CIA. But here's a tip: if the CIA says don't do something,
don't do it.
I'm gonna cut you out, buddy, because why
don't
not?
do that thing.
But you notice how Scott's light got darker when we started talking about the CIA?
I saw that. I saw it.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. He started talking like this.
No, I get it. I get it.
This show's gonna get canceled.
And then we went into the victim mentality with Earl, which you can be a victim, and it can be, or you can decide to be a victor, like Ben said, and it's just all about your perspective. Then check out Scott's Last Man Out at lastmanoutplay.com.
Is it Last Man Out or Last Out?
Last out.
Last
Oh,
Out.
my bad.
Remember
I wrote out Last Out play. My bad. When he said Last Man Out?
I said Last Man Out. That was my fault.
He said Last Out. You said Last Man Out.
I did. That was on me. Buddy. I'll own that.
Look, buddy, stop being a victim right now. You're being a victim. It's okay. Like, just accept it.
Well,
It's fine.
he is a victim of my. He's a victim of my mistake.
Yeah.
So
No. I'm just going to tell you the whole how that went down.
Yeah.
He said Last Out. You said Last Man Out, and in my head,
my fault. I'm
all
sorry.
I could think was, I wonder if that's what my mom thought when I came out, because I was the youngest boy, and then I couldn't pay attention to anything because then I was thinking about my mom giving birth, and I was a little disgusted at myself. Anyway,
I bet you were a horrible delivery.
I was late. I was big. My dad. Years. It took years for her to recover. Anyway, let's see.
What
Then,
the fuck?
check out.
What just happened?
Landers Fields, where Ben helps save all the people who need help to eventually provide help to other people. And then one last thing. One of our buddies from the 82nd runs Warriors for the Outdoors. His name's Jimmy Bates. Super good dude. Used to be a fister and a mortar guy, and ended up getting a brain tumor. Got out, and we talked about being a victim and victim mentality, and I tell him if he was on the show, Jimmy was a dick. Like, if you talk to Jimmy was kind of an asshole, but he was an asshole. Like, he was one of those assholes that cared about you, but he was just abrupt, blunt, and he was an asshole. But having a brain tumor, getting treatment, getting it taken care of, kind of changed his life around a little bit, and he realized that when he got out, he wanted to give back. So he's doing Warriors for the Outdoors, and right now they're doing a raffle. They got a couple things on raffle. But the raffle is May 1st this year on Facebook Live, and you can either get so it's $20 for one ticket, $6 for $100 for 6 tickets.
Hey, I gotta stop you. Chris's mom is watching. Hi, Chris's mom.
Hey, Chris's mom.
What's up, Chris's mom?
Chris's mom.
The prizes.
Love you.
The prizes are a GL10, which is a AR platform 308 with a X-Sight day and night scope, and then a Bagheera B14, which is also a 308, just bolt action with a 4x12x50 scope. You can Venmo Jimmy Bates 13, or you can Cash App him at $JC Bates 75. And it all goes for a good cause. This guy's got like 60 acres in South Carolina, cabin, and for free, you and I think 4 or 5 of your boys can go there, hang out. He'll let you hunt some hogs, take you fishing, do whatever. And it's a good time, good place. So you and your team or your squad can get together and have a couple beers if you want to. Don't have a couple beers, sit by the fire and talk about the old days.
Buddy, send me all that so I can put it on social media, because you don't go on social media. So send me all that.
I know, but we're having him on the show in a couple.
I know, but just
Hey, Earl, send me all that too.
Yeah.
It's
That
all
sounds like
over.
somebody we need to connect together.
Just send
Yeah,
it
it
to me,
does.
buddy, and I'll get
It's
it out there.
literally on the flyer that I sent you.
You can literally just send it to me.
I will text it to you.
Thank
right
you,
now.
brother. I
I'm
love
gonna
you.
do it
I
like
love
this
you.
second.
I love you.
Yeah,
I love you, buddy.
too.
Yeah. All right, Dave.
Scott, hey, just phenomenal stuff. You guys have any final words, Scott or Ben? Anything else you want to put out before we?
No, man, I appreciate it. It's just good to be with you guys again and all that you do. And certainly with Ben, I look forward to all the fun things we're going to do together, man. And, fighting monsters. So good to be with you guys.
Love it, Scott. Ben?
Guys, thank y'all so much for having me on. I love this. I'd love to come back and I'd love to do it with Scott again too.
Hey, loved having you guys on. Scott, what you're doing, obviously, with the play and everything, just phenomenal. Following you on social media and just seeing all the stuff. And I can't wait till you guys are out in Phoenix. I will definitely be attending, and I think Nick will fly out here for that. Maybe Buddy can fly out here for that.
Yeah, maybe.
Man, he ain't doing, Buddy ain't doing
Scott if
shit.
he's doing anything in the Southeast.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
I'm
then-
gonna check
It's
that
a
out.
play,
I'm gonna
buddy.
check
Are there a
that
lot of
Yeah.
plays in the Southeast?
Oh,
All right,
dude,
you got to
hold
be
up,
able to
hold up.
friggin'
First
read
of all-
down
first
there,
of all,
right?
smart ass, there's
Yeah,
a theater,
yeah.
There's a theater about 2 blocks from me right now.
Theater.
I've been there once.
Hey,
It's like a tent.
okay.
It's a tent set up somewhere.
It's a circus tent.
That's a circus tent.
And
There's a couple
also,
goats in there.
hey, I'll share this with you guys.
raise your hand if you're one of the guys that went to England lately and went to 2
Oh,
places.
you went full
Oh,
World
good job,
Cup,
buddy.
all right?
Good job.
You were,
Oh, yeah.
you
Yeah.
went full World
I'm
Cup.
fucking.
You
I'm
went to Europe.
classy as
Great.
shit.
I'm proud of
buddy.
you, man.
Super
Hey,
classy.
buddy, I'll share
Scott,
this with
got something to say there. Yeah.
I'll share this
Yeah,
with
go ahead.
I'll share this with you real quick. We did the play in 2019. We stopped off in Buffalo, and this
North, buddy.
this Ranger Regiment guy came up to me, and like I don't even know how many tours in Afghanistan and Iraq, and he comes up, and after the show, he goes, "Yeah, I don't go to fucking plays. My wife."
He hit you with the non-gay, like I don't go to play. Like,
Yeah, that's what he said. He's like, "I don't go to fucking plays. My wife,
Yeah,
my
'cause
wife brought
that's where you catch it.
my wife brought me to this thing, and
Monkeypox is in place.
this ain't no fucking play." That's what
Yeah,
he
yeah.
said at the end of it. It's
Man,
like, this is a play.
I'll
This
back
is,
that up and I'll put my life on it. I don't even watch TV. I don't watch podcasts. I don't watch plays. I went to this thing and I can't wait to see it again. Like it is that good. My ADHD is so bad I can't sit through a 30-minute TV show. But this play, I cannot wait to see it again.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited. And you can count us in for Phoenix, Scott. And then Ben, hey, obviously, I think we could do another segment with you, bring you back on the show. Where we can dive a little deeper into the different companies and all you got a lot going on, dude.
I do. And I would love to come back on. So
Yeah.
in the part I glossed over, I lived in a couple of trap houses, dope houses during that gap before I bottomed out. Flanders has now acquired a couple of those and we've turned them into
Wow.
living. And so we've got a lot of big
That's
shit
fucking
shaking and
awesome.
loving.
Dude, yeah.
We're getting
That's
trap houses
really
shut down and we're turning them into things for good now.
Just hats off to you, man. Just hats off what you're doing, the energy and the focus that you're putting on. You're just like straight up just a good dude, like 100%.
I appreciate that. Man.
You're trying to
Thank
make changes. You're trying to help people left.
Boy,
and
he has
right, you know?
tattoos, so kind of.
Yeah,
you.
kind of. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
halfway.
But just thanks again, brother. It was an honor having you on. I'm
Dick's
definitely
a
going to share
nerd.
the video on our social media because I think a lot of people need to hear that.
Yeah,
And
I'll
just
get
the-
it pushed. Fucking
The
everywhere.
struggle where you were at and where you're at now just speaks volumes of your character.
man.
So thanks again for coming on. Everybody that tuned in late, go check out veterantrashtalk.com. Check out gruntworksclothing.com. Check us out on YouTube. Buy some of our awesome merch. All right. One of
I love
our most famous shirts is the one Nick's wearing. Ooh, buddy, you're actually wearing a Gruntworks
I
shirt.
said that earlier today.
Wow, awesome. Check us out, and we'll catch you guys next Saturday. We're going to be early next Saturday, right, Nick? What time are we going live?
We're at 10 o'clock
9 o'clock Eastern?
No, 10
10?
o'clock. 10 o'clock Eastern.
10 o'clock Eastern.
Because we're going to be promoting Ranger Essentials Coffee.
Yeah, so nice.
Yeah.
Another coffee company.
Yeah. Weird.
Catch
You
you out
got out
next
as a
Saturday.
veteran, you're selling coffee. Shocking.
Love you.